a single one get away.
Confession time. I've never played a Smash Brothers game. 30 plus years a gamer, and it was never a franchise that I crossed paths with. After the early days of the N64, I drifted away from Nintendo, lured by the shiny goings on over at Sony's PlayStation division. So this gives me a bit of a unique chance to review arguably the most hyped release on the Switch so far on its own merit as a standalone game in 2018, rather than comparing it to past iterations or reviewing it assuming the viewer has past experiences with the franchise. So, if you're a first time smasher and are wondering what the hell all the fuss is about, allow me to fill you in as I review Super Smash Bros. Ultimate on the Nintendo Switch. First off, what the actual frig is Smash Bros? Well, it depends on who you talk to. Some insist it's a party game, but I definitely think of it as a fighting game. You beat the crap out of your opponents until there's one standing, ergo, fighting game. It's definitely unique though, as there are all sorts of wacky items to pick up and use, and the stages you fight on are like nothing you've ever seen in a game like this before. I say in a game like this, because in actual fact, even if you haven't experienced stages like this in a fighting game before, there's a good chance that you will recognise many of the 100 plus stages from across the history of gaming. From the rolling hills of Xenoblade Chronicles to the Pokemon Stadium, and from the tracks of Mario Kart and F-Zero to the skies of Pilot Wings and Wii Sports Resort. There's even a stage set inside the house of the Nintendogs universe, and each stage interacts with the fighters in different ways. The aforementioned F-Zero stage sees you having to dive out of the way of the ships hurtling around the track and heading right for you, whilst the Summit stage from the classic NES game Ice Climber sees the ice-covered platforms tilt with strong winds mid-battle, making avoiding falling to your doom almost impossible. But fall you likely will, many times, whether it's slipping off one of those mountaintop ledges or being launched from one side of the stage to another by a character wielding the giant mallet from Donkey Kong, you will fall. Fall too often and you're out of the game. Whether that ends the match or not depends on the mode that you're playing, and this is where Smash Bros really starts to show off. At a basic level, you can choose from the most straightforward 1 versus 1 matchup, where the person launched into space by the other loses. You can start to add in more players till you end up with 8-player deathmatches or pair off into teams. This is just the tip of the iceberg though, as you can dip into the advanced settings and tweak a myriad of parameters for your fight. From whether items are allowed, if new players start with advantages, how much damage certain attacks do, the list is almost endless. A great feature here is the ability to save all of this pre-match setup as a match type. So anytime in the future you can load up any saved configuration and be straight into a fight. So, what characters can you play as? Well, I'm glad you asked. Although you only start with an initial 8, this game is jam-packed with a massive variety of playable characters from across all of gaming's history. Everyone from Mario and Peach, Sonic and Pac-Man, Snake from Metal Gear, Simon Belmont from Castlevania, all the way up to the Inklings from Splatoon and Springman from ARMS. In total, there are over 70 playable characters to eventually unlock. And it won't end there though, with new fighters arriving by DLC, the first of which being Joker from Persona 5, who's arriving sometime in the near future. It's not just the sheer variety of characters though, it's the absolute loving care and attention that has gone into every single one of them. Whilst every character has a similar setup in terms of how they control, they all feel vastly different thanks to bringing in lots of their unique abilities and character from their original franchises. So for example, Ryu from Street Fighter will play pretty much as he does in that game, his attacks being very much melee based and his special moves being the Hadouken and the Shoryuken, even using the same inputs as they do in Street Fighter, while someone like the Inkling from Splatoon can use her gun and ink bombs from a distance. And just like in Splatoon, they can run out of ink, so she has a special move where she can duck down into her paint and refill the container. These are just some small examples of the amazing detail that has gone into each character, and there will be definitely characters that you love playing and others that just don't suit your style of play. As I mentioned, only 8 of these characters are unlocked from the start, and you earn new characters simply by playing the game. You can unlock specific fighters by playing certain modes, but generally a new challenger approaches screen will pop up after a while during your playtime, and if you can win that one-on-one fight, that character will be added to your playable roster. If you fail the battle however, you will not get a chance to unlock them again for a little while. Talking of modes, there are a wealth here to play. Are you seeing a theme here with Smash Brothers? It's absolutely jam-packed to the gills with content. So let's have a look at the single player modes. While Smash is something best played against other humans, either online or locally, if you're looking for options for solo play, you're well covered here. You can set up a standard fight on any of the stages in the game, with any of the rules you like against any of the unlocked roster of fighters. You can just play these fights over and over with little consequence, and this mode is great for testing out new characters or warming up for some of the other in-depth modes. If you want to step it up to the next level, there's the classic mode, and in this you can take each character through a series of 6 fights, a bonus game, and culminates in a boss fight. This mode is a ton of fun and a great way to see the variety of characters and modes on offer. This mode also saves your best scores, giving you something to come back to and try and beat. For each character in classic mode, beating their boss will generally unlock a new character for your roster. There are a few variations on these modes, but the final biggest piece of the single player content is a story mode, dubbed World of Light. In this mode, you start out as Kirby and travel through a large JRPG style overworld, trying to liberate spirits from within their puppet versions of the other characters of the game. Once you beat a character, you unlock their spirit and it gets added to your pool of spirits. You can then equip one of these spirits to your own character, and each will give different buffs and effects to use in battles. For example, one spirit may give you invulnerability against fire, which would be perfect to equip in levels that are set in flames. Think of the spirits as something like Pokemon, as you can level them up and even feed them between fights to improve their effectiveness. There are hundreds and hundreds to collect, and the World of Light mode in itself will take somewhere in the region of 20 to 40 hours to fully complete. Finally, if you just want to farm for certain spirits, then you can hit up the Spirit Board. This is a rotating list of spirit battles which change after a set amount of real world time has passed. These fights have no overarching story like World of Light, but any spirits you liberate here can be used in any mode in the game. All the single player modes offer something quite different and have enough content and replayability to last you a very long time. But what about if you want that competitive edge? Well, Smash has you covered for multiplayer too, though personally I wish it had a little more meat on its bones. Let's have a look at some of the multiplayer offerings. There are basically just 2 online modes, Battle Arena and Quick Play, and both of these require the Nintendo Online subscription, by the way. Quick Play will throw you into the next available match. Depending on the player count, this could end up being a 2v2 team match or just a free-for-all last person standing match. Generally, I found these matches to run really well, with perhaps 1 in 10 having some slight lag, but as I say, on the whole they run very smoothly. If I do have one small gripe here, is that if you get knocked out in a match, then you have to sit and watch the conclusion with no option to quit out. This can be slightly annoying in a 4-player match if you get knocked out early, but matches don't generally go on that long, so it's not the end of the world. Perhaps it would have been nice that if you have to stay connected and watch, that you could interact in some way, even if it was just being able to boo or cheer as the match played out. Anything to keep you engaged. I must confess I found myself picking up my phone to browse Twitter while these matches finished off. The other mode, Battle Arena, allows you to host or join a room with up to 7 other players. From here you can invite friends to battle or just join up with randoms. You can jump into the stands and watch fights play out, or you can put your token in the queue to be next up to fight in a winner stays on style. This mode will also use a Nintendo Online app for voice chat and is the only mode that allows that, I believe. As I say though, whilst both of these modes are fun, there isn't much to do outside of taking on fight after fight. There is some sort of arbitrary ranking system called GSP, which updates after every fight. This ranking system will tell you how many players you are better than, so a higher number here is better, but there is no way of telling who is at the very top of the quote leaderboards, due to the way this system is deliberately set up. Nintendo wanted the ranking system to be more friendly, rather than being a competitive fight to get to the number 1 spot. Players that are in a certain upper echelon though will be invited to elite battles. Beyond your own GSP score though, the only other thing you get to measure your results by are by collecting tags from beaten opponents which go into your collection. This is quite a neat idea, but ultimately pointless really. When you compare the online offerings to something like say Splatoon, which has a defined ranking system and different levels of matches to be promoted into if you do well, there isn't a whole lot here to keep you invested, like how I'm obsessed by improving my Splatoon level online. With all that said, online battles are really fun and can be incredibly satisfying knowing you've just won a battle against an online player rather than one of the AI bots offline. Okay, so let's rattle through a few of the specifics now. First up, graphics. And as you can probably see for yourself, Smash Bros is a great looking game with a ton of detail. From the beautifully animated characters to the amazing backgrounds that just lavish attention to detail throughout the whole game. The often brutal final Smash animations are usually humorous, screen-filling extravaganzas full of light and colour, and really give you satisfaction that you've just put someone away for good. Everything runs at a smooth 60 frames per second, with handheld displaying at 720p and dot mode at 1080p, and I've not experienced any significant slowdown at all, even when things are at their craziest on screen. Graphics get an excellent 9 out of 10. Now on to sound. And here we have another example of the crazy amount of content that Smash offers. Each of the 100 stages in the game has its own generous playlist of authentic music from the game it represents. And all of those together and you end up with a staggering soundtrack of over 800 unique musical pieces. Just let that sink in for a moment. 800 musical tracks. Many of which are some of the most beloved tracks from all of gaming history. There's even an in-game jukebox feature that allows you to pick any of the tracks in-game and you can create playlists of your favourite music. In a first for the Nintendo Switch, this feature can actually play sound from within the game when the Switch is put into sleep mode, meaning your Switch becomes something akin to a portable music player. The rest of the sounds in the game are excellent too, with incidental sounds from characters and stages, plus a booming announcer that announces the fighters and the winners. Overall, it's hard to find many faults with the sound. Obviously, with 800 tracks here, there will be hits and misses for each person individually, but you cannot fault the effort that has gone into the sound and music for this game. It means it gets an excellent and first ever switched on 10 out of 10. Finally, let's have a look at the gameplay in a bit more detail. Now, Smash Bros is an absolute blast to play. The controls are simple enough, with one button doing basic attacks, one doing special attacks, and by tilting the left stick in different directions allows you to do different moves for each of those. There's buttons for jumping, shielding and grabbing, and then the right stick will let you do your final smash attack to finish foes off once you have inflicted 100% damage on them. The fast-paced gameplay though often means you need super quick reactions, and being able to adjust to what your opponent is doing is key to winning fights. There's almost a rock paper scissors system at play here, and just mashing any button will be effective to a point, but the way to consistently win is to master the way a character plays and know the attacks to use at the right point. As mentioned earlier, the stages also play into how the games evolve, with some having floating platforms to fight on, whilst others are just large flatter arenas. Some stages can also morph mid-fight from one stage to something very different. They're as much a part of the game as any character. They almost become a character themselves a lot of the time. All of this adds up to a near infinite level of customization. With 70 plus fighters, 100 plus stages, 800 pieces of music, a wealth of options to tinker with and a whole heap of items to pick up and use, the odds of having the same match play out exactly the same way must be nearly impossible. And that's what keeps Smash Bros always feeling fresh and makes it very hard to put it down once you've picked it up for a session. As you may have gathered by now, I think Smash Bros is a special game. If you have a Switch, you owe it to yourself to try Smash Bros. Like I said at the start, I'm coming into this as a new Smash player in 2018, having no previous experience in the franchise, and I now get what all the fuss is about. So yes, it's worth the hype that has been surrounding the release, and this is definitely going to be a massive part of the Switch library for the next couple of years, with ongoing support and DLC promised. The only thing left to do is to give Smash a score. This is a game you will play for years, and despite a few minor niggles, this goes right into the top tier of Switch games, and I'm going to score it a massive 9.5 out of 10. And there you go. I hope you enjoyed this sort of beginner's take on Smash Bros. And it helps you make a buying decision. I'd love it if you leave me a comment below and let me know if you picked the game up and who you're enjoying playing as. If you need any help or have any questions, just leave me a comment as well and I'll try and help out. And if you can like this video and drop me a subscribe, that'd be perfect as well. Thanks so much. Okay, I will catch you next time. Goodbye.